All right, let's just jump right in. For more than 100 years, one of the world's most baffling objects has been staring us down, and it has not said a single word. I'm talking about the Phaistos Disc, a 3,700-year-old clay circle from Minoan, Crete that has absolutely stumped everyone, code breakers, linguists, you name it. But today, we're going to look at a completely new theory that might finally make it speak.
And here it is, the one question that changes everything. For 117 years, we've been trying to read the disc, but what if that's been the problem all along? What if this thing was never meant to be a book? What if it was meant to be a game?
So let's get the basic facts on the table. Back in 1908, an Italian archaeologist named Luigi Pernier finds this thing in the ruins of a Minoan palace. It's about 6 inches across, made of baked clay, and it's covered on both sides with these 242 picture-like symbols. And these weren't drawn by hand. No, each one was stamped into the wet clay, one by one, spiraling around the disc.
And believe me, people have tried to read it. Oh, have they tried. Experts have thrown every ancient language they can think of at it. Greek, Hittite, Egyptian, even Basque. And every single time, they've come up empty. You see, the symbols are what's called a hapax legomenon, which is just a fancy way of saying they're a complete one-off. We've never seen them anywhere else. It's a total linguistic dead end.
So after a century of just hitting a brick wall, some researchers decided, you know what? Let's ask a totally different question. And this right here was the pivot that started to unlock the whole mystery.
And this slide just nails the shift in thinking. Everybody stopped asking, what does it say? And started asking, how does it work? They stopped treating it like some dusty, dead language and started looking at it like a dynamic machine, like a piece of ancient technology. And all of a sudden, the clues started clicking into place.
Okay, so if this is a detective story, we need some evidence, right? Well, it turns out there are 3 massive clues that have been hiding in plain sight this whole time, and they point directly to what this disc was really for.
So, clue number 1 comes from the clay itself. A new analysis from Konstantinos Ragazis shows the disc's physical properties just don't add up for a written document. Think about it. If you were writing something, you'd stamp both sides pretty quickly while the clay was all wet, right? So the impressions would be nice and uniform. But on the disc? No way. The stamps on side A are really deep, while the stamps on side B are much, much shallower.
And that leads to a crucial point. This wasn't made in one go. They stamped side A, and then they waited. A pretty long time, actually. Long enough for the clay to start drying and hardening before they even started on side B. This means it was a step-by-step process happening over hours. The clay was like a living ledger, recording events as they happened. That sounds a lot more like a long strategic board game than a scribe just writing something down, doesn't it?
Okay, now for the second clue, and honestly, this one's a bombshell. It all boils down to this single glaring number, 76.5%. This is the statistical smoking gun.
This is what researchers are calling the phalanx clustering anomaly. You've got 2 symbols, the feathered head and the shield, and they show up together in a very specific order over 76% of the time. Now, to give you some perspective, that kind of rigid pattern is basically impossible in any known human language. If this was just random chance, you'd expect to see it happen about 13% of the time. The difference is just, it's huge.
So, what are we really looking at here? This isn't grammar. It's a game plan. It's a tactical doctrine being played over and over again because it works. You're seeing the record of an optimal move. You lead an attack with your best offensive unit, the feathered head, to grab some territory. And then what do? You immediately follow up with your defensive unit, the shield, to lock it down. It's a classic phalanx formation, recorded right there in the clay.
The third clue is what shows us we can actually prove this today. Now, we haven't run this exact test on the disc yet, but a landmark study provides the blueprint. Researchers took this mysterious Roman stone, 3D scanned its microscopic wear and tear, and fed all that data to an AI. And get this, the AI was able to reverse engineer the complete rules of a forgotten Roman game. This was a peer-reviewed study. It proves we can decode the mechanics of lost games just from the physical evidence they leave behind.
Okay, so let's put it all together. It wasn't a text. It was a process that happened over time. It recorded a clear game strategy, and we have the AI tools to crack the code. The solution to this 107-year-old mystery? The Phaistos Disc was a Bronze Age machine for delivering justice.
And this brings us to the core concept, mechanical justice. Imagine you live in a world without complicated legal books. How do you settle a huge dispute over land or money without it turning into a blood feud? Well, you outsource the decision.
You hand it over to an objective, rule-based system, like a game, to take messy human emotions and bias right out of the equation.
The disc itself was the arena for this legal fight. The symbols weren't letters. They were game pieces, and each one had a specific legal function. The feathered head and shield were your main units for claiming territory in the dispute. The prisoner symbol, that could freeze your opponent's assets, which is basically a court injunction today. And the small axe was a special power move, maybe held by the palace, to break a stalemate and force a final ruling.
I mean, this is the profound innovation here. It's the moment a society decides to take a violent, bloody conflict and turn it into a structured simulation with rules. They literally turned the battlefield into a board game. And when the game was finally over, the clay disc was baked in a kiln, freezing the final verdict into a permanent, unchangeable legal contract.
But the story, it gets so much bigger. It turns out the disc isn't some weird, one-off invention. It's actually the peak of a kind of cognitive technology that we humans have been using for tens of thousands of years.
Let's be honest, our brains are wired for tribalism, for us versus them. To build big, complex societies, we had to invent something new. External systems. We had to find ways to store information and enforce rules outside of our own flawed, biased heads.
This timeline just lays it all out. New research suggests that 40,000 years ago, the first modern humans in Europe were already using geometric signs as a rule-based info system. But what's really mind-blowing is that these ancient signs have the exact same statistical information density, the same level of complex structure as the first true writing, which appeared 35,000 years later. And the Phaistos Disc, that's the next giant leap, turning that static information system into an interactive legal algorithm.
This suggests that our ability to create these complex external systems isn't something we just invented out of the blue. It's more like a source code that's hardwired into our species' read-only memory. We just keep finding new ways, new interfaces to run the same ancient program.
Which brings us to one last big thought. The Minoans created this brilliant piece of technology to outsource judgment and get around their own biases. So it really makes you wonder, as we build our own incredibly complex systems of AI and algorithms to make decisions for us, what lessons can we learn from a 3,700-year-old game of mechanical justice?